1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters don't move, whatever click you choose.
We got another extremely interesting interview cracking off today, man. We got Wicked Loco in the house, and he's got a real interesting story he's gonna tell you guys on how he went from a black Southsider eventually to a Long Beach Crip, man. So how you doing today, Wicked?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you today?
Man, I'm doing good, man, and it's a privilege to have you on and to share your story with me.
Thank you very much.
And so tell us a little bit about about yourself, man, where you grew up at and all that type of stuff.
Well, I grew up in the east side of Long Beach, and you know, I have two older brothers that's legends from Long Beach. They're Ace Deuce Crips, you know, and they're still living and breathing. And I basically just grew up in a poor family. Mama raised on welfare. Daddy left her when I was like 2 months in my mama's belly. She had 8 kids, all by the same guy, and he ran off and left us. So you know, we grew up pretty poor. You know, 8 kids in a 1-bedroom house.
And okay, and so you mentioned the Ace Deuce Crips, which is something that a lot of people may not be familiar with. So can you explain a little bit about the Ace Deuce Crips?
Well, the Ace Deuce Crips, they're they wasn't really Crips, and they wasn't Bloods. They were just these days they would call it a crew, but back then it was just a bunch of poor kids hanging out and formed this little group that they called Ace Deuce, and it started in the east side of Long Beach, and that was basically, you would consider, the first gang that started in Long Beach.
Okay, and so what year were you born, to give us an idea of when all this stuff took place?
I was born in 1968.
Okay.
But now, when I speak upon the Ace Deuce, now from getting information from my brother and some of my older homies, I think the Ace Deuce started around, I'm gonna have to say 67, 60, 65, somewhere up in there.
Right. Okay. So let's just jump right into the good stuff, man. When did you start, as they say today, when did you hop off the porch and start hanging in the streets?
I was 12 years old. Going to Franklin Junior High, and I'm like I say, I had 3 brothers that were Southsiders. So now, why did this one brother veer off from my older brothers from, you know, being a Crip and started hanging with Mexicans? You would have to ask him that. I don't know. So he started that trend, and then I got 2 brothers under him that followed his suit. Now, me being the baby brother, I followed under their suit. So as a youngster, I used to, you know, admire them, the way they walked, the way they talked, and of course, it was, you know, hanging with the Mexicans. So I followed the same trend, but I wasn't hanging with no Mexicans. I was just, in my mind, I was doing my thing. So at Franklin Junior High, I was in the 7th grade, and I met this dude named Perico from T-Town Flats. And me and him started hanging out together for a while. And then he introduced me to a guy named Midget from Eastside Longo. So then me and Midget started hanging out. And me and Midget started gravitating more, and I started pulling away from Perico. And Midget would just, you know, take me to these little, not really deep in the hood of Eastside Longo, but he would take me to little places here and little places there. And every time I met these Hispanics, I blew their mind, because they couldn't understand how a black guy can talk like he's a Chicano, you know. Right. And
And so let me ask you, before you had met Midget and Federico, did you have any black friends, or as far as you can remember, you always hung
Yeah,
with
I had
Hispanic?
I had two black friends back in the 5th grade. I had two black friends. So that was the only time I really socialized with blacks. And then after that, that was basically about it. And
And
that was as
so
a child in the 5th grade.
and so what about your older brothers? Did they have very little association with blacks too? Their crowd was primarily Hispanics?
Yes, their crime was very Hispanic, man, except for my two older brothers. Now, my two older brothers, see, you got to remember now, I mean, you got to think about it. See, back in those days, it wasn't no war between the blacks and the Mexicans, so everybody was cool like that. You know, Long Beach is like a very versatile city back in those days. Nobody had really beef with each other. You would have to go right across town to have beef with somebody, but as right there in the inner circle, everybody got along. The blacks, the Asians, the whites, we was all hanging out together. Wasn't no beef, wasn't no war.
Right. And so back to now, you're hanging. You started gravitating more towards Midget, the guy from where you say he was from again?
Perico. Parrot. This is Parrot.
So what was that like when you had started hanging more with him?
With Midget, I felt more like, okay, when I was hanging with Perico, it was like I was just hanging with him. But when I started hanging around Midget, it's like he started showing me love. You know, took me to his mom's house, introduced me to his family, started taking me to places to meet some guys from Eastside Longo. And when I was with Perico, it was just me and him hanging around at school together.
And so when you started meeting some of these guys from Eastside Longo, to your knowledge, were there any other black Southsiders who was hanging with them?
Yes, but I hadn't met them at that time. It was some.
Right. So
it was some there before me.
How were you perceived by, you know, these Eastside Longo dudes? Do you think you were accepted? Do you think initially you was kind of teased? Were you how did that go?
I never felt none of that. None of that. I felt nothing but love and respect. I don't know if it was because of my character. Like I say, I met other blacks from Eastside Longo that was there before me, but they wasn't like me. See, well, like I said, when I came through the door, I was already what you would call a black Mexican, but I was more advanced than them because of the simple fact, I carried myself as a Mexican. It was one particular time in my life where you couldn't tell me I wasn't a Mexican.
And so how do you think by the time you had started hanging with the Longos, you were so seasoned? Did that come from watching your older brothers and stuff?
Yes, and learning from them. What I did was I paid attention. Like we would all be sitting around and somebody would say, "Vámonos to la tienda," and you know I would look and okay, then we all get up and go to the store. So I said, okay, so that must mean let's all go to the store. So I just picked up on stuff like that. And plus I knew Spanish words, but I didn't know what they mean. So what I would do, I would say these words to them to see how they would respond to that. And that's how I picked up on a lot of words also.
Okay. And so what was your style of dress like then? Was you dressing in what would be considered a Hispanic style of dress?
Yes, I was choloed out the game. I wore the big old khakis with the creases in them. I pulled them up high on my stomach, wore the tank tops, corduroy house shoes, which I still wear right now today. Some things is hard to, let go.
Right.
But yeah, I dressed like a Mexican.
So what was your neighborhood like? In your neighborhood, was your neighborhood a mixture of blacks and Hispanics, or?
Yes.
So when the older blacks, the gang members in your area, in your neighborhood, would see you dressed in a style that was considered a cholo fashion, what would they say?
Oh, they had a serious problem with it. They didn't like it one bit. And I got into a lot of fights behind that.
So even back then at a young age, you think that the blacks in your community, they kind of harbor animosity towards you for in their minds, yes, imitating a Hispanic?
Yes. See, like I said, back in those days, it wasn't no war jumping off between the blacks and the Hispanics. So a lot of the problems what Eastside Longo had is when, far as me, like I say, it was other blacks from Eastside Longo already there, but they stayed on the down low, if you could know. But see, I was out in public with mine. I wasn't trying to hide it. I wasn't trying to fake it. I wasn't trying to do none of that. Hey, it was just me. I'm who I am. Whether you want to accept it or not, that's who I'm with, though.
Right.
And I pushed that line. And I pushed that line real hard. Got me in a lot of stuff behind that. But you know, I wasn't in the hiding. I was out in the open with mine.
And so, what about like some of the black gang members in your neighborhood, in your area? Did they ever try to convince you to try to join the black gang?
See, that's where it comes. That's where you get tricky at right there. That never happened. They had the opportunity to snatch me up, but they chose to leave me alone. So I started gravitating over to the Mexicans because of my older brothers who was hanging out with them and doing that stuff. So I gravitated over to them. The blacks never tried to snatch me up. They only had a problem once I joined the Mexican gang, and then they start seeing me interaction with them.
Right.
And there would be times, like I said, with other blacks, but it would be lots of times where you would look up and see like 100 Mexicans, and you see me right there with them.
Right. And so you said you had kind of started hanging out, and you had jumped off the porch around the age of 12. So I've done the quick math. So that's somewhere around 1980. So the black gangs, the Crip gangs in Long Beach were in full swing by then, right?
Oh yes, definitely. You had the insane Crips, you had the Rolling 20s, you had the on the west side, you had the West Coast Crips. Yeah, full swing. Right.
And so when do you think you officially joined the Hispanic gang?
I'm gonna say around 12 and a half to 13 maybe. Because I hung with him for a little while before Midget came at me with the question. You know, I hung with him for a little while. And I guess he was basically testing the water, you know, to see if I was really with the business, you know what I mean? I'm assuming, I don't know, you have to ask him that.
Right. And that was gonna be my next question. How did it let us know exactly how it happened that you end up joining the Hispanic gang? So you was a member of Eastside Longos?
Correct.
Okay.
Bona fide member.
How did you end up joining that gang? Did they, like you said, they came and asked you if you wanted to get put on, where you jumped in? What was your initiation like?
Okay, so you got to remember now I never been initiated in a gang. Now, like I said, I had two older brothers. They were from Barrio Pobre, which is Barrio Poor Town in English. So from the Eastside Longo angle, I portrayed the role that I was from Barrio Pobre, but I really wasn't. But as far as they was concerned, I was. So Midget one day comes to me and pops the question. He's like, hey, man, you ought to go ahead and be from Eastside Longo. You know, you're hanging with us every day. And, you know, so you ought to go ahead and just jump on in Eastside Longo. So I was like, no, man, I gotta go ask my, first I told him, no, I can't do that. Then he kept pushing the issues. I was like, well, let me go ask my older brothers to see what they say.
Right. And
so I go home. I'm listening.
No, I was going, go ahead.
So I go home that night and wait on my brothers to come in, and they come in and I pop the question to them. I'm like, hey man, I want to be from Eastside Longo. You know, get jumped in. It's like, huh? Like, yeah, I want to jump in Eastside Longo. Like, no, man, you're gonna be from Barrio Pobre. So one of my brothers was like really with it, and then the other one was like, nah, you're gonna be from Barrio Pobre. So they tell me to go outside, so I goes outside. And they had a long talk and whatnot, and they finally agreed to it. So I go back to school the next day. Now, mind me, I never been initiated. I don't know what a jump in is or none of that stuff. So when I get to junior high that morning, I see Midget, and he's like, hey, what happened? What'd your brothers say? He's like, oh, yeah, they said, okay, cool, I can go ahead and get in. So he says, are you ready? I say, yeah, I'm ready. So we goes across the street to the alley, and that's when they start jumping me in. Now, like I say, I don't know what the hell's going on. They just whooping my ass. But I hear some dude counting. And he counts up to 14 because we was from 14th Street. So when he get to 14, Midget says, ya estuvo, which means it's over with. He picks me up like he's from Eastside Longo now. And on that day, he took me to the heart of Eastside Longo.
And so how many people did you have to fight to get initiated?
There's about 15 people there that day, about 15. Yeah, about 15.
And so when he took you to the heart and told them that you was a bona fide member, you was just initiated, how did they treat you?
With love and respect. It was always love and respect. Always. I never felt no racial anything from them. None of that. I don't know if it was just me, but I never felt it at all.
Now, back in those days, you said that at that point the beef hadn't started between the black gangs and Hispanic gangs. So,
Right.
did your gang were they beefing with somebody back then?
Other Hispanic gangs.
Right.
Other Hispanic gangs. Yeah.
And so, did you ever have any interaction where you was caught up in, a beef, a fight,
Oh yeah.
like a gang?
Oh yeah.
war?
Yeah. I've been in 2 gang wars and lots of fights. Lots of fights.
So, what was it like back then, as far as how you guys would initiate contact with whoever you was beefing with? Would you guys walk over there? Did you guys go to the same school? Were they in the same neighborhood?
We would go to them. We go where they was at. We go where they was at. Only one, and I'm not saying they was big and bad and tough and all that, but only one time that another gang came over there where we was at, just once.
Right. And
99% of the time we went over there where they was at.
And so, what was it like now? Of course, like I said, now you've got officially put on a Hispanic gang, and so now you hanging with these guys, you banging, what was your day-to-day activities like as you're starting to grow, and become a young man, 14, 15, 16, so on and so forth?
I wanted to participate in everything. I didn't want to miss out on nothing. I wanted to be in the hood every single day, and I was. Every single day. And like I say, the other blacks, I didn't meet them until the first one I met was about maybe 7 to 8 months after I got put on. And I met him. And now I'm gonna say this is kind of funny, but when I met him, it seemed like whenever he showed up, me and him would gravitate together. We'd just be like hanging out. We're hanging out with everybody, but me and him would be together. It's like the blackness pulled us together.
And so back then, how many blacks were in the Hispanic gang? What you say about?
It was from what I know, it was 8, and me make 9.
And did you see the other 8 often? Were they about your age? Were they older?
Some of them was older. Shady, which is he passed away, rest in peace. Shady was maybe a year or 2 older than me, and it was one other one that was a few years younger than me. But I hardly seen them. They came around every blue moon. They barely came around. Right.
And so, what were the activities like back then? Drinking, smoking weed. What were you guys up to?
Yeah, just drinking. We were smoking Sherm, PCP. PCP. Weed was just now and then, but our main high was Sherm, PCP.
And so, what was your name? Wicked Loco then, or what was your name?
No, they called me Droopy back then. My name was Droopy. I walked in that door with that name because that was my nickname from a child, Droopy. So I walked in the door with that. Right. And it kind of fit me real good because, like I said, I used to always want to hang out, didn't want to miss nothing. So I was tired a lot, and I used to be, like Droopy, always tired.
And so, did you ever experience any where you got caught up in any criminal type of activities where the law was involved? Did you end up going to juvenile hall or?
Yes. I went to juvenile hall, went to camp. Yes.
And so when you go to juvenile, well, let me ask you this question. So before I get to that, once it's official that you become an Eastside Longo, did that cause more problems with the blacks in your neighborhood?
Yes. Lots of problems.
Because so when you would see them and they would ask you where you was from, you would let them know you was from Longos and
most definitely. Then we had a problem right there on the spot.
Right.
They would laugh like it was a joke or, and I didn't think it was funny. And we ended up having our altercations. And I had once I joined Eastside Longo and like I said, and started being out there with them, I had lots of altercations. Me and then them with me, we had lots of altercations with them.
Right. And so, then it comes a point where you say you got into some criminal trouble and you go to a juvenile hall and camp. Are you still representing the Hispanic gang?
All day.
Right.
To be truthful with you, when I hit juvenile hall, This is being just truthful with you. The only one that had a problem with me being from a Mexican gang was the Crips. The Bloods didn't give me no problems. They just like, no problem. You with that? No problem. Just the Crips gave me the heat.
Was it, where you think you got the most heat from? Was it Crips from Long Beach or just Crips from everywhere?
Crips from everywhere. Crips from everywhere. Yes.
And so once you end up getting released from camp and hitting back in the streets, how long was it before you got into some legal trouble as an adult?
I say about 2 years. Yeah, because I got out of camp at 16. When I hit 18, I was on my way. No, I went to the county jail first. Yeah, about 18. So about 2 years.
Right. And so during this time, of course, you know, because your big brothers had already gave you the okay to join the gang, so they're embracing you being a member of Eastside Longos and stuff like that.
Yes. They had no problem with it. I used to bring the homeboys over to the house, and they had no problem with them at all.
Right.
Because, like I said, we was younger than them anyway. So.
Right.
And my older brothers, they didn't give a shit either.
Right.
You know, and I asked them. I said, "Hey, man, how'd y'all feel about that? You know, your younger brothers being from a Mexican gang," and their response was, "Hey, man, it is what it is. Y'all doing y'all thing." So, you know.
And so, if you can remember, how do you think? Do you know if at what point do you think your mom recognized that you had joined not necessarily a Hispanic gang, but just a gang period? And how did she feel about that?
She didn't like it one bit. She didn't like it one bit. She used to go looking for me. When she found out one place I used to hang out at, and she would come and get me. And of course, I went home with her, and as soon as she turned her back, I was out the door.
Right. And so at some point in time, you find yourself in some legal trouble as an adult.
Correct.
And so you end up going to the county jail, Los Angeles County Jail.
Yes.
And so what was that like at the time when you go to jail? You are still representing Eastside Longos?
Yes. With that there, it shook me up because like I said, I had 2 black friends before that, and after that I didn't interact with no blacks. So I went in there. I went to a place called HOJJ because I was fighting a murder. And in HOJJ, unlike the county jail, you move around different modules. And HOJJ, you stay on one tier with one role. So you interacting with everybody on that tier right there. And like I said, I never socialized with blacks before. You know, I say what's up and keep it pushing, or we have a little fight because I'm from Eastside Longo. So I met this dude named Pops from Insane, which is he passed away now, R.I.P. to Pops. I met him, and for some reason he wanted to friend me. And he told me a lot of things that kind of blew my mind.
And such like, and first let me ask you this. So you had got charged with, you said you was fighting a murder. Was it a gang related murder?
Of course. Yes. Okay.
And so now you say you ran across Pops. Pops wanted to befriend you, and he told you some things that blew your mind. Yeah. Was Pops a lot older than you?
Yes. He's way older than me. He was close to his 50s back then. I was 18. Fresh 18.
Okay. So what were some of the things that he shared with you that blew your mind?
Well, the first thing he told me was if we in the penitentiary, he'll have to rush me. I'm like, why you gotta rush me? He's like, cause you with the Mexicans. I was like, what the fuck is the problem with that? You know, and he's like trying to tell me, like, in the prison, this is how it works. And I'm like, well, shit, you cool with me, man. I like you. He's like, I'll talk to you. And he's like, no, you can't talk to me if you go to prison. I'm like, why I can't talk to you? He's like, because you're with them and I'm over here. So basically what he was telling me, because I'm with them, that I couldn't talk to him, that I would get disciplined and whatnot for talking to him. Right.
And so around what year was that you found yourself in the county jail facing those
1986. 1986. Mm-hmm.
And so how did that all come out for you? Did you end up being found not guilty, charges dropped? What was
Yes, charges dropped. Found not guilty, charges dropped.
And so,
yeah.
So now you back on the street. You've just
Yes.
dealt with you was facing a murder charge, looking at some time back then. So did that experience, if any, cause you to think twice about going back out there gang banging and stuff, or?
Not one bit. Not one bit.
Uh-huh.
I was young and didn't give a shit about nothing. Just putting it down, representing Eastside Longo and doing my thing, going forward. That's all I had in my mind. That was my full-time job.
And so how long was it before you found yourself back in the county jail again?
Around about 2 years later, back towards the end of '88.
Right. And so now when you're back in the county jail the second time, or even on the first time, did you catch a lot of grief from blacks up in there? Did you have to run a lot of face because you was pushing a Hispanic gang?
Most definitely. But let me back up a little bit. I want to back up a little bit. Now I'm back on Pops. Now Pops told me something. Now he tell me while I'm in the county jail with him, he's like, "Hey man, but this is what you can do." Now why he bothered to share this with me, I have no idea. He tell me, "This is what you do, man." He said, "When you go to prison," I said, "Wait a minute, what you mean when I go to prison? I ain't going no damn prison." "Oh yeah, you're going to prison because you're a rider, you with the business." He said, "But when you go to prison, what you can do is you can go with the blacks, and then when you get out, you go back with the Mexicans." Now why he tell me this, I have no idea. But this is what he tells me. So, but he don't share with me that that's a dangerous game, because now I'm playing both sides. If I choose to do that, I'll be playing both sides.
Right.
So back to your story. When I go back to that subject you just asked me, when I went back to the county jail, this time I'm going to be going to prison.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get ready to go, when I'm in the county jail, I start thinking what Pops told me. Now, why I decided to even think about it, I have no idea. Why I decided to do what he told me to do, I have no idea. So I ended up going to prison. And
so when you went to prison for the first time, how much time was you sentenced to him?
I was only going to do 5 months, just 5 months.
Right.
Just 5 months. So when I get there, I do like Pops told me. He said, "Find the Long Beach car and do this here." This is what I do. So when I get to prison, I find the Long Beach car and I go up to him. I'm like, "Hey, they call me Wicked Loco from Eastside Longo, but I want to hang with you guys." And of course they ha he and what the fuck you talking about? And they was basically telling me to get the fuck on. But it was an older dude there that knew my brothers, Mace Deuce, named Buck. Now Huckabuck like, "Hey, wait a minute, ain't you Ray and Dan's brother?" I was like, "Yeah." Like, "Oh no, you cool, come over here with us." So I started hanging with them. So now I'm interacting with blacks, right? So as I'm interacting with the blacks, I'm starting to see things a little different now.
Right.
You know, I'm starting to see that maybe I don't belong over here. Maybe I belong over here with my people.
And let me ask you real quick. Is there anything specific, or what kind of made you come to that realization that maybe I don't belong over there? What inspired those thoughts?
Well, at this particular time, things were starting to happen to where Hispanics and blacks were starting to have altercations with each other.
Right. Okay.
And then being in prison, seeing how, I don't want to say, because I don't want to start nothing. Seeing how blacks and Hispanics didn't get along. And I'm thinking like, well, I'm over here. So am I supposed to be with them fighting against my people? And didn't seem right to me.
Right.
It didn't seem right.
And so, because prison is a small community. Did you happen to run across anybody from Long Beach that knew you from the streets when you were representing a Hispanic gang?
Oh yeah.
And how did they feel about that? About you representing a Hispanic gang on the streets, but now that you're in prison, you're hanging with the brothers. How did they feel about that?
Well, like I said, I didn't hide nothing. So they knew I was still with the Mexicans, but now I'm in prison. I'm riding with them. They would just ask me a lot of questions like, why don't you go ahead and just stay with us? You know, why don't you join us? And I was like, no, I'm just doing this while I'm here. I'm just passing through.
And my next question, while you were in prison, did you happen to run across anybody that knew you from Eastside Longos?
No, not at that time. Not at that time. No.
So what prison were you sent to?
CMC.
Yes. Okay. And so you do your time, your 5 months, you parole, you back to the streets. So now, are you back with the Longos again now?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I'm back with the Longos. And when I pull up there, I'm not gonna say this person's name. He pulls me to the side and he's like, hey man, you know, he's like, I know what you did. And I'm like, know what I did? He's like, yeah, I know what you did, man. He's like, but hey, he's like, shh, don't tell nobody. I said, oh, that was bad? He's like, yeah, that was bad. Don't do that again. I said, oh, okay, I won't do it again.
Them crackers let me out the gate, now the pressure's on. We about to get this shit straight like a pressing cone. The wrong cat to get aggressive on. I bring the bitch up out of niggas while you think they got them dresses on. My reach long and that's the best type. To have some dirty white boys come and smoke you like a meth pipe. And leave your chest bright red like a fire truck. Kicking your mom's door at night, nigga, and tie her up. I'm wild as fuck and I'm respected by the new youth. I put this pistol in their ear like a Bluetooth. I blow their brains on their new coupe. And have red everywhere just like a function full of soup whoops. Tell your troops I deal with beef like a butcher. My 4-5 pump more guys than Ashton Kutcher. Line pusher, quick to bury your clown. Nigga, I stayed in the park like the merry-go-round. Get it?
That game greasy, bitch, that game need me. Oh, you niggas don't know my name. That game greasy, bitch, that game need me. I'm out here doing my thing. That game greasy, bitch, that game need me. I swear in time, that game greasy, bitch, that game.